Alright guys, welcome to lesson 2 where we're going to be looking at powers and negatives. Okay, this is going to be a continuation of what we learned, especially looking at odd and even number of negatives. Biggest thing here, negatives. Okay, we really have to be careful with this, especially in grade 9. So much of what we do is going to be multiplying, dividing positives and negatives. And so we really need to understand this concept. If you do not, come see me as soon as you're done watching this video, because if you don't understand this, it's going to be really tough to succeed well in this course. So we need to take care of that as soon as possible. Okay, but I believe we've got this. Okay, so here's just a couple examples quickly, right, of how we can write things in different formats. And this is going to be really important because brackets are everything here. So first example we have is in a bracket we have -2, and outside of the bracket all of that is to the power of 4. So we can write that as -2 times -2 times -2 times -2, which equals 16, right? So because everything is in the brackets, we're multiplying -2 as a whole 4 times, okay, which equals positive 16. Next up we have -2 to the power of 4. Notice the negative is not within the brackets, and so you are not multiplying the negative 4 times, okay? A lot of people go astray here, so you really want to be careful you're paying attention if the negative is within the brackets or not. Okay, so here it's actually negative outside. Within a bracket, we can show we're going 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which equals 16, and then that negative carries back over. So we end up with a negative answer. So although they look similar, they are different. Okay, so that's very important. Over here we have negative outside, and then a -2 within. So here we can show it. It gets a little messy with all the brackets, right? But our answer ends up being in brackets 16, the negative's outside, so we end up with a negative answer again. So there's 3 different ways of writing the same numbers basically, but we add in brackets and certain negatives in different parts, but you can see that not all of the answers are the same, even though the digit, the rational number, is. Okay, so here we can look at -3 is within the bracket. So we're multiplying -3. I'm going to just do it as a dot. It's another way of showing multiplication. I think I've explained that to you guys. Okay, times -3 times -3. Okay, so 3 times 3 times 3 is equal to 27. And we have a negative times a negative times a negative. That's an odd number. There's 3 of them. So our answer will be negative. Okay. Next up here we have -4 to the power of 3, but it's 4 to the power of 3, and all of that is just negative on the outside. So here we go, negative within the brackets, 4 times 4 times 4. Okay. So our answer ends up being 64. And that is negative, because that was outside. You can even put this in a bracket if it helps you remember where that all came from. No problem. All right, so here things get a little bit more complicated. I'm going to do square brackets just to start. And then within we have -5 times -5 times -5. All of that within the square bracket. So here we have 5 times 5 times 5. Okay, this equals 125. Negative, 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 that's a negative number, right? And then at the end of it, it's negative. So here we have a negative times a negative. That's an even number. So our final answer ends up being plus or positive 125. Okay, so you can see how that negative outside changed our answer from what would have been a negative to a positive. So it's really important to kind of pay attention to each component of that. Okay, so let's move it along. Just slide it down here for you guys. So we're going to look at how to do this step by step, okay? So step one here, for each power, draw a line under its base and circle its exponent, okay? So we know the base is the big number, so we're going to just go underneath that. It's a little hard to see here, but I do not want to underline the negative here. So it's kind of hard to see, but that is just for the 4. Here, we're going to try this over again a little bit closer. The precision is a little off. Okay, so this is the whole 4. This is just the 4, not the negative. Here we're looking at the negative 4. Here we're looking at negative 4. Okay, for the exponents, I'll circle them and let's do red. Okay, so the exponents are our little guys up top. Okay, all right. So let's expand this into repeated addition. We'll look at all the different parts, and it's really just some good practice for how to do it. So all of this is 4 to the power of 3. So here we have 4 times 4 times 4. There's no negatives, nothing to worry about. So our answer ends up as 64. Here we have a negative outside, okay, and then we have 4 times 4 times 4. So we end up with negative 64. Here we have a negative inside and outside of the bracket, so this is negative 4, there's a negative out here, negative 4, negative 4, okay? So that would give us negative 64, but outside of the bracket we have a negative, so that cancels out and we end up with positive 64. Lastly, negative 4, negative 4, negative 4, end up with negative 64. Okay. It asks you to underline products that are negative and circle products that are positive. So here, we have a positive and a positive. Here we have a negative and a negative. Okay. So then, for you guys, explain why the circled products are positive, explain why the underlined products are negative. It really has to do with where the negatives align. Is it part of the base or is it extra from the base? Okay, do we have an odd number of negatives or an even number of negatives? So those are the answers I want you guys, or the questions I want you guys to answer with this. Okay, so that would be step 3. I'll leave that up to you guys. Step 4, complete this table. Same thing, circle the positives, underline the negatives. Okay. So we're going to go try this one now. Same idea. So we keep all of the same rules in mind. Okay. So here we have 4 to the power of 2. The base is 4, so that's what we are repeating. Here the base is still 4. The negative is on the outside. It's extra from the base. Here we have negative 4 times negative 4 and a negative outside. And then here we have just negative 4. Nothing extra to worry about. So 4 times 4, 16, 16, 16, 16, right? Number doesn't change. The positive and negative signs do though. So here we have the negative is outside. Here we have 2 negatives which make a positive, but an extra negative outside. So this one would be negative. Over here we have a negative times a negative, which is a positive. Okay. Same thing. We're going to circle our positive answers, underline our negatives. Okay. Now you'll notice that this looks different from the last table, right? Here it was positive, negative, even though it was the same format for the negative because we had a different exponent. So really pay attention to all of those pieces. Take it slow. Do not rush through your work, please. All right. So choose a negative integer and write it in brackets. So a negative integer, let's do negative 3, okay. And then we're going to use this in our table. So here, we're going to do exponent of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and see how it changes. So here we have a negative 3, negative 3, negative 3, whoop. Negative 3, to the power of 3, negative 3 to the power of 2, negative 3 to the power of 1. Okay? So negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. And I'm not doing that in my head, so let's do it with our calculator. So here we have negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 equals 243. Okay, so we have 5 negatives, which is an odd number, so our answer will be negative. Here we would have negative 3, negative 3, negative 3, negative 3. So 3 times 3, 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is equal to 81. And then we have 4 negatives, which is even, so we have a positive answer. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Oh. That's negative 3. Okay, gives us 27, and there's an odd number, so it is negative. Lastly, we have negative 3 times negative 3, right? And so we have 9, even number, positive answer. And lastly, negative 3 times itself once. And so we end up with negative 3 as our final answer. Okay. So it's going to be up to you guys to explain how you know if your product will be positive or negative based on the rules that I have given you. And I believe that is all for today's lesson. Yeah. So I'm going to have you guys practice page 97, number 10 to 13, and then 16 to 18. Okay, see you next time. Good luck.